Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Abdul Samad and I would be presenting application of artificial neural networks to assess the effects of incivility on job certification through emotional exhaustion. And my co-authors in this article are Shafiqur Rahman and Abdul Khair. And first of all, I would like to congratulate all of those who have participated in this conference of IMCES held on June 2020, Indonesia. So these are the contents that would be followed in this particular presentation. So introduction holds the healthcare organizations as the backbone for development and growth of any nation, specifically if we talk about the countries that are developing. And sadly, incivility is breaking that particular bone in the developing countries. Individuals experiencing incivility results in generating tremendous amount of negative psychological and behavioral consequences. Incivility is becoming pervasive in workplaces and is highly destructive for employee, employer, and organization as a whole as well. Recent research conceptualizes and investigates incivility more from victims' perspective to understand and tackle due to its negative outcomes at all levels. Incivility is basically is a mild, discourteous, insulting treatment, ambiguous, intent to harm others. Literature shows that supervisors and co-workers' incivility are two main sources for incivility, and about 96% of workforce have experienced workplace incivility. Workplace incivility has been reported by researchers in all work settings and has become increasing problem. Whereas literature also shows that uncivil behavior at workplace is most lethal for social settings such as healthcare settings in terms of job certification, and is costly for organization by reducing hospital productivity by up to $1,484 US per registered nurse, which is ultimately deteriorating the quality of healthcare sector. Now we would be talking about nurses, as nurses are the second most important after doctors, and to the impact of healthcare system by interpreting and improving interpersonal relations among the staff and supervisors. It has also been reported that the nurses are prone to verbal abuse that leads to, again, connects the concept towards incivility or uncivil behavior. In the local context, however, in Pakistan, links of workplace incivility with negative work outcomes such as job dissatisfaction are observed by LAIC in 2018, and therefore recommended further investigation for managerial intervention and actions. So this slide particularly gives idea where this particular event has been focused, or this research has been focused. On contrary, workplace incivility, however, have detrimental effects among workplace incivility among nurses in the USA enterprise employees in Turkey and hotel employees in Nigeria were reported had no significant effect on job certification in 2014 and 15 and 19 as well. So less is known about outcomes of the workplace incivility sources in Western context, and typically in Asian context. In 2017, it has been observed. This highlights the need for more investigation, and importance of this study helps the HR practitioners to understand the workplace incivility phenomena with respect to emotional exhaustion and job certification. This slide particularly gives us a view how the theory supports this particular conceptual framework, that was the conservation of resources theory, which is well-known theory that links stressors with depletion of individual emotional resources, as the title suggests. This may arise due to stressors such as the supervisor co-worker incivility into negative emotional experience, resulting in lower nurses' job certification in local context of Pakistan, as it was observed by Dahiri and Hamid in 2018. The research framework is based on theoretical assumptions for conceptualization of supervisor and co-worker incivility, negative effect on job certification through emotional exhaustion. These are the hypotheses particularly specified in this particular slide, and these are the methods that were and the materials utilized to assess, to analyze, and evaluate this particular research. Ensuring confidentiality of respondents. Data was collected from population of 736 registered nurses of Karachi and Hyderabad district public hospitals of Sindh province through self-reporting method. A total of 330 questionnaires were administered among registered nurses in public hospitals from Sindh province in Pakistan, and out of those 301 responses were returned, making 78% response rate of return, and after initial data screening 291 finally were left usable for the final analysis. So where is the instrumentation is concerned, co-worker incivility and supervisor incivility, emotional exhaustion, and job certification were measured with validated instruments, and the values are given here for composite reliability and average variance extracted for the validity and reliability of the instrument and scales. So artificial neural network, why we used this particular method or tool to analyze the results is that a majority of researchers are using PLS regression prediction function using methods such as regression for causal relationships. Despite wide acceptability of these methods, they have limitations of oversimplifying the complexities involved in decision-making process. ANN as AI tool has gained momentum as it outperforms these traditional methods such as regression, linear modeling, CBSEM, and PLSM. This simply is due to its ability to predict both linear and non-linear relationships. ANN has a high predictive accuracy and validity prediction for fast learning and accurate prediction. It also can acquire new learning and a strong storing memory, exerts reliability dominance over regression, flexible in terms of factor loading, normality assumptions, linearity, homoscedasticity, and sample and size. ANN can accommodate sample with greater differences and has good generalizability capabilities, that is, robust for missing or noisy data. Rationale continues that features of ANN outsmart other regression techniques in prediction. Far insulated from statistical flaws, this study addresses the urge for scholars to capitalize ANN capability to model complex hidden relationships among variables. ANN was on certain numbers of processing units called, it works on neurons that includes mathematical functions and connected by the directed weights links. These units are organized into layers with one input layer for the data input or one or more hidden layers for the data processing through neural networks and an output layer to provide the results. ANN can forecast symmetric and asymmetric relationships with almost 100% accuracy and without multivariate assumptions of homoscedasticity and normality and linear mandate. ANN is an AI method that overcomes common bias methods error and simulates tests for accuracy, directing to use PLS package in combination of R to predict job satisfaction behavior in healthcare workers. This slide shows the demographics of participants that were involved in this study. Research findings reveal that self-reporting method is approach in this study, which involves certain common bias. To address this issue, this study adopts structural regression modeling to test structural model and applied statistical remedies. The anonymity of the respondents was ensured, and the structural regression model of this study was measured through MOS program following the suggestions of Hare and et al. 2014. Measurement model fit was evident from the factor loading for each item of the measurement scale ranging from 0.57 to 0.91. Chi-square values were 1211. Goodness of fit GFI was 0.82 and norm fit index was 0.90, and root mean square error approximation RMCEA was 0.072. In addition to the loadings for convergent and discriminant validity deemed adequate under here 1919 guidelines as composite reliability with values of coworker civility, supervisor incivility, emotional exhaustion, job classification, average variance were also being measured for this study. So research findings in terms of what we gained from the research is that the hypotheses that were hypothesized and assumed were supported by the theory and found to be supported. The effect size were also considerable according to following the Cohen 1988 guidelines, whereas the mediation effect was also supported in this study, which shows with the effect of coworker incivility on job certification through mediation was 0.041, and the effect of size of supervisor incivility on job certification through mediation of emotional exhaustion was observed as 0.094, which are quite considerable. And these are the this table shows the research findings in terms of hypotheses that were already discussed, and the further the training process as far as the neural network is concerned needed 2083 steps until all absolute partial derivatives of the error functions were smaller than 0.01. The estimated rate show that coworker incivility and supervisor incivility had significant effect on emotional exhaustion that mediated a non-linear effect on job certification. This significant effect on job certification also validated the SEM, structural equation modeling finding, and the generalized weights are given for all the covariates within the same range. Further, to potential bias issues of the model overfitting was addressed by tenfold cross-validation test with ratio 70 to 15 data for training and testing. Also, 10 networks were used for the model accuracy. The RMCEAs are presented in table 2. All the results shows that the model prediction are reliable. This is the table for RMCEAs training and testing session for the neural networks. Now, as far as the discussion, theoretical and managerial implications are concerned, earlier research mostly focused on workplace incivility, mainly on turnover, withdrawal, intention, cynicism, and negative organizational outcomes. Less attention, however, was focused on negative emotional energy accumulation that preys over the job certification. This article links workplace incivility experienced by nurses from co-workers and supervisors, resulting in their reduced job certification. The empirical association endorses the hypothesized relations and extends the CUR theory postulation. This study is among very few that addressed critical healthcare behavioral issues with the help of ANN, artificial neural network, due to its predictive accuracy, validity, dominance over progression, and less data restrictive nature, such as normality, linearity, and simple assumptions. Though limitations can be criticized by future researchers, and to test this model in Western culture and self-reporting biases should be addressed. Further, based on CUR3 assumptions, this study essentially links experiencing incivility in the workplace from supervisor, co-workers with emotional exhaustion, which eventually lowers job certification among nurses serving in the public healthcare sector. Research frame built on these foundations was interacted with ANN to examine the impact of proposed variables according to coworker incivility, supervisor ignited emotional exhaustion that further mediated between coworker, supervisor incivility, and job certification, supporting the proposed hypothesis. Moreover, job certification is a major challenge for healthcare sector in Asian developing countries. In this regard, findings of this study reveal that job certification is mainly affected by the incivility that translates into emotional exhaustion, which damages job certification among public hospital nurses. Nurses are frontline staff operating in the field and faced with emotional charge, events from patients, families, or being in the middle of life and death situation, which often pushes for emotionally exhaustive pressure, and typically in developing countries. So this study directs the support for HR managers and policymakers for feasible interventional practices at workplace that buffer or eliminate the direct or indirect negative effect of incivility on job certification among nurses. Thus, it is critical for healthcare stakeholders to pay attention towards factors that foster better conduct, communication, culture, and supportive practices in healthcare workplaces. Therefore, this study directs policy development towards workplace incivility, such as zero tolerance for the uncivil behavior and training activities in healthcare should be made mandatory. Further, organizations should adopt policies of counseling and conflict management. This is the bibliography that were included in this particular article, and this brings us to the end of this presentation. I would like to thank all of you for having time, focus, and consideration.